Before the multiverses, before Marvel rewrote physics, there was Stargate SG-1, a show that dared to turn a 1994 cult movie into one of the most beloved sci-fi sagas of all time. And at the heart of that universe was one man who wasn't supposed to lead, Richard Dean Anderson, known to the world as MacGyver, the man who could build a helicopter out of a paperclip. He wasn't just a hero on TV. He was the reason millions tuned in week after week because he brought humanity to science fiction. When Stargate SG-1 first aired in 1997, expectations were low. The movie had been a success, sure, but no one believed lightning could strike twice. Yet when Anderson stepped into the role of Colonel Jack O'Neill, he changed everything. He added humor to military command, vulnerability to leadership, and wit to war. Behind every sarcastic line was a man haunted by the death of his son, a pain that grounded the entire series in reality. It wasn't space battles that made people stay. It was the broken heart of a soldier trying to find redemption among the stars. Off-screen, Anderson was battling his own exhaustion. After MacGyver, he'd sworn never to commit to another long-running show, but the idea of exploring humanity through the unknown pulled him back, with one demand: more heart, less heroics. He fought for scripts that balanced cosmic warfare with emotional truth, and that's why SG-1 didn't just survive, it thrived. But the deeper he dove into O'Neill, the more it mirrored his life. The brutal filming schedule, the sleepless nights in Vancouver, and the growing distance from his young daughter started to weigh him down. So when he left the show after 8 seasons, fans were heartbroken. But for Anderson, it was never about quitting. It was about being present for the one person who mattered most. Today, Richard Dean Anderson lives quietly by the ocean, his days filled with family, photography, and fan letters that never stopped coming. His hair is silver now, his voice slower, but when fans see him, they don't see time. They see the man who defined a generation of science fiction, the one who showed us that real heroes don't save galaxies, they save themselves before it's too late. If Richard Dean Anderson was the heart of Stargate SG-1, then Michael Shanks was its soul, playing Dr. Daniel Jackson. The brilliant but misunderstood archaeologist who unlocked the Stargate itself, Shanks wasn't just a sidekick. He was the thinker, the dreamer, and often the conscience of the team. But behind that calm intellect was a man fighting for something far deeper than fame. Respect in a universe where his character, and at times even he himself, was constantly underestimated. When SG-1 began, Daniel Jackson was a callback to the original 1994 film, the curious scientist who saw meaning where soldiers saw missions. Shanks had the impossible task of replacing James Spader, an Oscar-nominated actor, but what Michael brought was humanity. He wasn't trying to be Spader, he was trying to be believable. His Daniel stumbled through alien worlds, asked questions no one dared to, and refused to lose faith in the goodness of life, even when surrounded by gods pretending to be deities. As the seasons went on, Shanks's performance deepened. He made Daniel the moral compass of SG-1, constantly challenging military logic with emotional intelligence. But off-camera, tension brewed. Long hours, creative disagreements, and limited screen time left him frustrated. In Season 5, he walked away, a decision that sent shockwaves through the fandom. Fans protested, websites crashed, and producers scrambled to fill the void. But the truth was simple. Shanks didn't want fame. He wanted fulfillment. During his brief exit, he explored other roles, guest spots, voice acting, even small indie films. Yet the shadow of Daniel Jackson followed him everywhere. And when he finally returned in Season 7, something had changed. He was no longer playing a role, he was embodying a legacy. His return episodes, especially Abyss and Lifeboat, are still studied today for their emotional depth and raw humanity. You could feel that this was a man who had lived, lost, and come back stronger. Today, Michael Shanks has traded off-world missions for a quieter life in Canada, with his wife, actress Lexa Doig, whom he met on the show. He still appears at conventions, humble and witty as ever, signing autographs for fans who grew up believing in Daniel's hope. His face carries more lines now, but so does his story, the story of a man who proved that sometimes the greatest explorers aren't those who travel through space, but those who survive themselves. When Stargate SG-1 first aired, science fiction was still a man's world, full of commanders, captains, and cosmic cowboys. Then came Samantha Carter. Intelligent, brave, and unapologetically brilliant, she didn't just open the Stargate, she shattered the glass ceiling above it. And behind that trailblazing scientist stood Amanda Tapping, an actress whose quiet strength transformed the way television portrayed women in power. From her very first scene, Amanda radiated confidence. Carter wasn't written as a token female. She was a soldier, a physicist, and the equal of every man in the room. But what made her portrayal iconic wasn't her intelligence, it was her empathy. Amanda played Carter with warmth, humor, and vulnerability. showing that you could be both genius and human, analytical yet deeply emotional. Fans didn't just admire her, they believed in her. Off-screen, Amanda's journey mirrored Carter's in uncanny ways. On set, she often found herself surrounded by male leads in a production dominated by masculine energy. Yet she earned her respect not by demanding it, but by commanding it, through consistency, professionalism, and a disarming sense of grace. Her input helped shape Carter into more than just a sidekick or romantic subplot. She became one of the strongest female leads in sci-fi history, the scientist who could rewire a spaceship one minute and save her commanding officer the next. But what fans rarely saw was how emotionally taxing it all was. The long shooting hours, balancing leadership on and off screen, and the pressure of representing women everywhere, it weighed heavily on her. Amanda once admitted that Carter's stoicism came from real exhaustion, that sometimes she'd smile in scenes when she wanted to collapse. Yet she never let it show. After SG-1, Amanda carried that leadership into Stargate Atlantis and later into her own series, Sanctuary, where she stepped behind the camera as both producer and director. She proved that her influence went beyond acting. She was shaping the industry itself. Today, she's a respected director on major shows like Supernatural and Motherland Fort Salem, mentoring the next generation of women in film. At fan events, she still greets everyone with that familiar Carter smile, genuine, calm, and endlessly kind. Amanda Tapping didn't just play a woman who broke barriers, she became one. And for every girl who watched SG-1 and thought, I can do that too, her legacy continues to echo through the gate, louder than ever. Every great story needs its heart. And for Stargate SG-1, that heart beat beneath the golden tattoo of a silent warrior named Teal'c. He was alien, yet profoundly human, stoic, yet full of soul. But what made Teal'c unforgettable wasn't just his quiet strength. It was Christopher Judge, the man behind the mask, whose own life mirrored the discipline, loyalty, and inner fire of the Jaffa he played. When SG-1 began, Teal'c was unlike any character on television. A former slave soldier who turned against his gods to fight for freedom. It was a role that demanded dignity and depth. Christopher Judge brought both. With a single raised eyebrow, he could say more than a page of dialogue. Fans didn't just see a warrior, they saw a symbol of integrity, a man who carried centuries of oppression in his stare, yet never lost his honor. But Judge wasn't always destined for sci-fi greatness. Before Stargate, he was a struggling actor in Los Angeles, doing small roles in commercial work. When he auditioned for Teal, he walked in shirtless, not for effect, but because he wanted them to see the physical power the character demanded. He got the part instantly. And from that day, he devoted himself to making Teal not just an alien, but a fully realized being with moral weight and emotional truth. Off camera, Judge was the opposite of Teal'c's calm demeanor, loud, funny, the life of the set. He often improvised jokes that broke the tension during long night shoots. But beneath that laughter was a deep awareness of what his character represented, a strong black hero in a genre that rarely showcased them. He took that responsibility personally, shaping Teal'c's dialogue, advocating for emotional arcs, and making sure the Jaffa's strength was never reduced to muscle alone. As the years went by, the bond between Judge and his castmates grew into something sacred. Anderson called him the soul of the show. Amanda Tapping said, he could make you cry between takes, then make you laugh a second later. Yet Judge's journey didn't end with SG-1. In 2018, he found a new destiny, voicing Kratos in God of War, a role that redefined his career and earned him global recognition. The world finally saw what Stargate fans had known all along. His voice wasn't just powerful, it was transcendent. Today, Christopher Judge stands as one of the most respected voices in gaming and film. At conventions, when fans chant, "Indeed," he smiles, bows slightly, and says, "My Jaffa, my brothers." For a man who once played a character that spoke few words, his presence still roars louder than ever. Teal may have fought to free his people, but Christopher Judge fought to give them a voice, and he won. Every great team needs a foundation, someone who commands not through fear but through respect. For Stargate SG-1, that pillar was General George Hammond, played by the late Don S. Davis. His calm authority anchored the chaos, his quiet compassion gave the show its humanity, and his presence reminded viewers that leadership isn't about barking orders, it's about believing in people, even when they don't believe in themselves. Don S. Davis wasn't just acting when he stepped into that uniform. He had lived parts of it. Before Hollywood, he served in the U.S. Army and even taught theater at universities. The blend of soldier and scholar made him the perfect Hammond, firm, disciplined, but profoundly wise. When he said, "You have a go," it wasn't just a line, it was a command that carried trust. He represented the rare kind of power that didn't need to prove itself. It simply was. Off-screen, Don was beloved by everyone. His set chair was always open, his laughter always present. Crew members often spoke about his habit of sketching between takes, a talented artist with a gentle soul. He treated every actor, from background extra to lead, as family. That same warmth bled into Hammond's character, turning him from a background figure into the emotional compass of the show. When the SG-1 team went off-world, you always knew someone cared enough to bring them home. But behind his composed smile, Don was quietly fighting health issues. Years of work, long shooting hours, and an unrelenting drive took their toll. In 2008, he passed away at 65, a loss that rippled through the entire Stargate universe. The cast described it as losing their own general. The show paid tribute to him in Stargate Atlantis, dedicating an episode to his memory, a rare moment when fiction bowed to reality. Today, fans still speak his name with reverence. At conventions, when old clips of General Hammond play, the room always falls silent. There's a lump in every throat because Don's performance wasn't about acting, it was about love, leadership, and legacy. He left behind sketches, stories, and a character who taught generations what command with compassion looks like. In a world where authority often feels cold, Don S. Davis showed that strength could be gentle. His Hammond didn't just run the Stargate program, he protected its soul. And though the man is gone, his voice still echoes every time a fan replays those words that defined him. Godspeed, SG-1. Every universe needs its heart, and in Stargate SG-1, that heart wore a white coat and carried compassion in every glance. Dr. Janet Fraser, played by Terrell Rothery, wasn't the one fighting aliens or exploring galaxies. She was the one patching up those who did. But behind her gentle smile and calm voice was a strength that held the entire Stargate command together. And for millions of fans, her loss on screen was one of the show's most devastating moments. Terrell Rothery joined SG-1 in its earliest days, playing the base's chief medical officer. At first, she thought it was just another guest role, but episode by episode, Janet Fraser grew into something extraordinary, the emotional glue of the team. When soldiers broke, she rebuilt them. When heroes faltered, she comforted them. She wasn't just a doctor, she was the motherly warmth in a world of cold steel and cosmic warfare. In a show full of explosions and wormholes, she represented humanity itself. Off-camera, Terrell was exactly the same, nurturing, grounded, and effortlessly kind. The cast often called her the heart of the set. She brought levity between long takes and warmth to every scene she touched. Her chemistry with the others, especially Amanda Tapping, was so genuine that it blurred the line between fiction and friendship. You could feel that connection radiate on screen every time Carter leaned on Janet after a mission gone wrong. Then came the shock no fan saw coming. In the 7th season, Dr. Fraser was killed in the line of duty, a storyline decision that left even the cast heartbroken. When the episode Heroes aired, thousands of fans wrote letters begging for her return. It wasn't just another death, it felt like losing someone real. Amanda Tapping later admitted that filming that funeral scene was one of the hardest moments of her career because the tears were real. Terrell, ever the professional, handled it with grace. She later said that while it hurt to say goodbye, she was proud of the impact the character had. Her portrayal turned a supporting role into a symbol of care, courage, and sacrifice. And in a genre where medics were often background characters, Janet Fraser became unforgettable. Today, Terrell Rothery continues to shine in film and television from Cedar Cove to Virgin River. Her warmth still radiates through every role she takes, and though decades have passed, fans still refer to her as Doc Fraser, a title that feels less like a character and more like a legacy. In a universe of soldiers and scientists, Terrell reminded us that saving lives isn't about glory, it's about grace. She didn't open the Stargate, she healed the ones who did, and in doing so, she left a mark that time and even death could never erase.